Yes, we're here. No, we've not slept in. Brendan. How could I sleep in? It's 7:05 in the evening here. Tony, they're a restless bunch, but we know they just love it. They love the content. We'll take it as a positive.
It's a backward compliment, isn't it? Yes, that they're all sitting there waiting in the dulcet tones of your good self, my good self. So thank you guys, we're here and we're always here, so let's do it.
Yeah, we've got things to talk about as well. The chat is popping off already. People are speaking about Daniel Kelly, and there's been a wee update on his future earlier today, and some maybe slightly surprising interest, maybe not surprising, but stuff to talk about. A few other things as well. First of all, a big thanks to MPH Boilers and Viessmann for sponsoring this video and every morning briefing at the moment. So yeah, if you're after a boiler at the moment, they're the people to go to. The links will be in the description below after we've finished here. We've got this as well, Tony.
Yes, look at that. You could win a lunch date with Martin O'Neill, Celtic legend that he is, former Celtic manager. Wonderful 5 years he spent at the club. And yeah, one lucky subscriber, and it's open to all subscribers, present subscribers, new subscribers, any subscriber, really. So there you go. But you've got to be in it to win it. So if you subscribe, hit that button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe, and you could win a lunch date with Martin O'Neill. Best ever prize giveaway on the Celtic Way, we think.
And we know the most of these legends are already subscribed, Tony, but if they weren't subscribed and they wanted to, what kind of content would they get this week in the lead up to Saturday?
Well, this week we've got all sorts of content. We've got cup final features, and today there's today on the website there's Stuart Ross did a piece on three wingers at Celtic, a scouting piece on three wingers that might interest Celtic. In the summer, we've got pieces coming up about, I think Ryan's written a piece about the new kind of social media wave, and I've got an interview coming up with let's just say, somebody that scored a winner in the Scottish Cup final against Rangers. I'll narrow the field down, and I've just basically asked the question, what's that like? So that's all sorts of content coming up over the week. We always try and vary it and do bits and bobs, but yeah, that's the kind of content you can see on the website, and hopefully everybody's enjoying it.
Yeah, and we're kind of getting through the week. It's kind of a weird one, but we're already at Wednesday. The game's only on Saturday. And I don't know what you think, Tony, but it's extremely quiet. I guess it often is like this in the lead up to matches like this, especially when there's no midweek fixture, before them. But it just feels it's kind of strange, as I said earlier in the week, because we've gone from such a busy week. This time last week we were looking ahead to Rugby Park and hopefully winning the league, and then we had Trophy Day, and it was just non-stop content. Different videos, different tweets and Instagram posts, and so much to chat about. And then we had Saturday, and since Saturday, which was an amazing day, it's all gone very quiet, which I think is good. I think the team are back focused. Nothing from Celtic probably until the press conferences, which do you know when they are? Are they today, tomorrow?
Thursday or Friday, I believe. It could be tomorrow.
Because it's different for the cup final, isn't it?
Different, yeah.
At Hampden?
I think, they do it at Hampden, I believe. So,
yeah,
if that's the case, I think it could be tomorrow. But failing that, it'll be Friday. Just depends when both clubs can fit it in. But do you know what I love about this week, Hamish? I love the fact that cup final day, it's a good old-fashioned cup final day. You know me and my traditions and all that. And 3 o'clock on a Saturday, it's going head-to-head with the FA Cup final. And I love all that. I think it's brilliant. Yeah. It just takes me back to being a kid. And if your team weren't in it, you watched BBC or ITV, whatever you preferred, the build-up to it all. And then you saw the highlights of the Wembley Cup final with whoever was playing in that. And it just looked magic. And I just think Saturday's got that feel about it. It's a real traditional football fixture in the calendar. The two cup finals going head to head, Man City, Manchester United, and Celtic Rangers. I don't think the sponsors or TV companies could have asked for anything better, could they? So I'm loving that fact. I just lament the fact I can't get my Roy the Rovers comic in the morning, Hamish, because I don't think they do it anymore. But hey, that's the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about your childhood, my childhood as well. That was the case. I remember, growing up mid 2000s, and it would still be FA Cup final would be on at the same time as the Scottish Cup final. I remember watching, this is a random thought, I remember watching Hearts v Gretna while Liverpool West Ham was going on in the other channel, and that was the 3-3 game. And I remember you just had you just had to choose which one, and then I don't know where we lost it. I think the FA Cup final started moving to 5, and obviously our final last year was 5. But it's going to be a cracking Saturday. But obviously there's only one game that we care about really, and it's Celtic v Rangers. We're going to get the photos as well in the lead up to the game. Rodgers and Clement, aren't we, with the trophy between them, looking at each other. Probably McGregor and Tavernier as well, a winner and a loser next to the trophy.
Yeah, you'll get all that, and sometimes there's that. Some managers and players have that superstition where they won't touch it until they win it, until they get their hands on it for real, and that's fine. Whatever they do, but there's all that kind of stuff, isn't it? And the build-up's great. You just want it to happen, though, don't you? And you're just glad that. I mean, you're talking about being a kid. I used to lament the fact that Celtic, if they weren't in the cup final, I hated it. If your team weren't in the end of season show, because it was just because you were just kind of
granted now.
You were watching a game because back then it was one of the few games that were actually on telly. This was a brilliant kind of couple of weeks coming up because you had, in my day, you would have had the European Cup final, the Cup Winners' Cup final, and the UEFA Cup final. Then you had the Scottish Cup final, FA Cup final, and then you had the home internationals, and even sandwich in between them was like the England schoolboy, the Scotland schoolboy internationals and stuff like that. So there was a lot of live football, and it was all kind of congregated in the one bit at the end of the season. And it was really special. It was a special kind of couple of weeks of football, But now it's just overkill, isn't it? And you can watch football any given day of the week and any given hour and from any league. But I think something's been lost with that, Hamish. Because you genuinely look forward to it. And then moving the cup final time and all that kind of stuff, But listen, it is what it is. But I just love the fact that Saturday's a throwback, isn't it? To a past time, and I love that. I would like that to be the norm for the future.
Yeah, and as I say, we take it for granted now that Celtic are in the Scottish Cup final because I don't know the numbers for sure, but I would say out of the last 10 years we've probably been in 7 or 8 of them. I mean, we rarely miss out on that final game of the season now, and it used to be almost, I mean, Celtic are a huge club in Scotland, but it used to be getting to the Scottish Cup final was seen as like a quite a kind of big thing. It's just taken for granted now because the team are so consistent.
I still think it is a big thing because you're a bounce of the ball or a decision away from being parked out a cup tie. That as we saw down at Kilmarnock Rugby Park in the League Cup, so it can easily happen. You could have an off day, as I say. So I think Celtic's run of consistency, I think as a Celtic supporter, you would never take anything for granted. I just think there's immense consistency over the past few years when it comes to the end of season showpiece. They've just been, consistent and, to the point of being relentless. And, that's some doing because people say once you win the first one or whatever, the hunger goes away. It's clearly not. Callum McGregor, I think I'm right in saying that Callum McGregor's never been a losing side in a Hampden final. Don't want to jinx it, but touch wood and all that kind of stuff. But that's a phenomenal record.
Including his youth team.
Including his youth, yeah, correct. It's an incredible and astonishing feat that you could go to Hampden that many times, perform and not lose. And, and I remember asking him that question, and he just said that he doesn't want to ever experience that. That drives him on. And every time, and I say, and somebody said, does it not get monotonous? And he was just kind of staring down as if, why would winning get monotonous? And he says, when I finish my career and I hang up my books, I want to look back. He said, and I've got a lot to look back on. He says, I don't want to see a loser's medal there. And I thought, wow, I mean, just that mentality to just every time they get there to perform and play. He's been on a losing side at Hampden, don't get me wrong. He's tasted defeat at Hampden, but never in a final. And I just think that's absolutely incredible.
And just to fill you with even more confidence, everyone, hopefully, Brendan Rodgers, I believe, has had 10 matches at Hampden, and needless to say, has won them all at this point. So, that's, I mean, I think, a lot of the time stats can be quite deceiving going into these kind of derbies, and you kind of paint them the way you want to favour your own team. But that to me is a very good stat for Celtic. 10 games at Hampden under Brendan Rodgers, and we've won 10. There was just, when you're talking about McGregor there, Tony, I don't know if you saw his interview he did with Sky after the game on Saturday, but you reminded me of a really good quote that he gave, and paraphrasing, he was basically saying, the season we didn't win the league, the COVID season, he remembers that feeling.
Yeah.
And he basically said his main inspiration to keep winning is not to feel that again. He says you remember the ones you lose far more than the ones you win, which I've heard a number of ex-players say. And he doesn't want to feel that feeling again. And he says that's one of the main things that fuels him.
Yeah. It's a bit like this, isn't it? You could have 100 comments and 99 of them saying you're great.
Yeah.
And it's 100%. The one that says you're not great that you focus on.
So true. Yeah.
And it can just alter your mindset. And
that's not anyone's cue to put in a negative comment, by the way.
But you know what I mean? That you've done that yourself, haven't you? Everybody, you're only human. And I guess in a competitive and footballing sense, they're the ones that stick out, because the highs are wonderful when they happen, but the lows are, the lows are the worst. And I think they permeate the brain more than the wins, and not because you take it for granted, because you set out in football to be a winner, and when you achieve it, it's wonderful. But when you fail to achieve it, then something resonates there, and you just see, I think it's just that collective thing we say, don't ever want to feel like that again. And I think the COVID season, is the one that, really did for a lot of them. McGregor especially, and we all know what was at stake. Don't want to go over old ground with that one, but, you can understand why that fuels you every day, can't you?
And we don't want to go over old ground, but if you went back to the COVID season, and I know it was a huge thing for us trying to win 10, but if you looked at that and said, okay, you'll lose this, you won't get 10, but you win your next 3, we would probably all have taken the way things have worked out. I mean, we've now got 12 titles out of 13. It's an incredible period, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, looking back at it now, you say to yourself, maybe, I'm not saying it was the best thing that happened, but, what followed it has been absolutely tremendous. And sometimes you have to take that step back to move forward, don't you? And Celtic were jolted by what happened during that season, but you got 2 years of, Ange Postecoglou, which everybody loved and still talk about and rave about, and he'll be fondly remembered. And then you get the best manager that you could possibly have recruited coming on the back of Ange, and and the way that all transpired when he left, when everybody thought he would maybe stay longer. So he didn't have time to really mourn the loss of Ange Postecoglou. In came Brendan and everybody's thoughts, but that reconnect that's happened as well. And you say to yourself, if all goes to plan in the Celtic board, their hierarchy do back Brendan Rodgers, then you're quite confident that there could be more success in the off and Hamish as well. Those numbers will stretch, you don't want to get ahead of yourself, but you're feeling in a good place, aren't you? About it.
I think that's the thing. I mean, we keep winning, and I think if you're anything like me, you'll have that thing in the back of your mind going, the winning's going to stop at some stage, and it's probably going to stop soon because we've already had 8 or 9 years of winning. But I mean, when you look at this Celtic team, to me, this is a team that's almost just starting a new cycle, and I think we're going to be far stronger next season. I mean, it's a terrifying thought if you're a Rangers fan. Just on Ange briefly, he's actually in Melbourne at the moment. Spurs are playing Newcastle tonight, but I'm not going, Tony, because I'm putting Celtic Way first. How about that? I don't do friendlies anyway.
Thanks very much. That's very kind. Yeah, indeed. I look at it now, and I think that the end of the season came at the wrong time for Brendan Rodgers, because his team are starting to motor and play the way he wants. He's alluded to that a couple of times. But the good thing is that's great. He can now get to do some serious work with them in the close season and hammer that home, and get new recruits in and say, this is the way we're going to play, and we're going to go at it hard and fast from the start of next season, which they didn't do this season. And he's spoken about there was challenges, but I think in his head, Brendan Rodgers has an idea, a very good idea of who's coming in and the way his team's going to play, and I think he's really excited by that. He's trying to keep a wee kind of lid on it and put the reins on it, but I think if you're a Celtic supporter, it's looking very promising as well, in terms of, you just see signs, don't you, that certain things are starting to click. Yeah, there'll be personnel moving on, possibly Matt O'Reilly, whatever, but I think Celtic are now in a position where they've been conducting their due diligence, and they'll be, if that is the case and Matt O'Reilly moves on, then there will be somebody coming in to fill that void, but what a void that'll be to fill, but I'm sure the manager's got it in hand.
Yeah, I think so. Is there any names you've seen at the moment in terms of players that are exciting you? I mean, we had the goalkeeper Castiles mentioned yesterday. We spoke about that. To me, he looks like he might be a decent fit if that's who we're after to replace Joe Hart.
I like that a lot. I like that thinking. Now, I think he's also sort of coming out in the Belgian press that, I think Anderlecht have made him an offer, I believe, but I think he's open to a club with Champions League aspirations and ambitions, because I think his wage demands would be quite hefty, which is fine because he's played in the Bundesliga, he's got lots of experience. But you have to turn around and say, criteria like that in the past would have frightened Celtic. Doesn't frighten them now, does it? And it's not something that's unreachable. It's not an unreachable target. Whereas sometimes in the past you've been linked with people and you've thought they won't come. And I think this new Champions League with the possibility of playing 8 to 10 games, that's a big carrot that you can dangle in front of players. It really is. And the possibility, you said, maybe you can qualify, you can finish in the top 24 or whatever. So we shall see. But going to have to give yourself the best possible chance, aren't you, and be as competitive as possible. I'm not saying Castiles will come, but I like the thinking and the thought process behind that, Hamish. If that's what we're doing, and we're getting somebody of that ilk to replace Joe Hart, then that's great, because then they'll do that for other players that leave. And I'm not saying Matt O'Reilly's going to leave. As I say, if Brendan Rodgers can convince Matt O'Reilly to stay for another year, I'll be convinced that he's a miracle worker. But Matt O'Reilly's very, very happy. But it just depends if Matt O'Reilly feels that it's time to step aboard that train that takes him elsewhere. Your time comes, doesn't it? And I think maybe Matt O'Reilly is thinking, and others are thinking, that it's time for him to board that train as it's approaching a platform. Could be wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. But we would thank him, say thanks for everything. But time will tell. But yeah, I just like the thinking, the joined up thinking about players that are possibly coming in, Hamish. There seems to be that. We need experience. We need players to come in and help take Celtic to the next level. And I think that's what the manager wants to do. And that means making an impact and making inroads in Europe.
Yeah, I think it'll come down to the interest that's in Matt O'Reilly. I think he would happily stay. I think he's a very switched on guy. His kind of advisors are very switched on as regards to his career as well. I just think there'll be interest in him. I think Matt O'Reilly will go for a record Celtic transfer fee if he goes this summer.
So do I.
Yeah, and you're talking over 25 million.
Well, yeah, 25 million is a ceiling just now. Yeah. I think realistically you could look for the best part of 30 million for Matt O'Reilly. Well. Give or take. But he will go for that kind of figure.
People laugh at that. People will say 30 million for a player playing in Scotland, but O'Reilly has all the criteria. He's English, English trained as well. Even though he plays for Denmark, he's English trained, so he fits into English teams' home quotas for Europe. He's young. We've got him tied up for a good few years yet. I think you're looking for over 25 million for O'Reilly.
Easily. And I do not use the figure 30 million for a laugh. I use it for a reason. Because I think that's what his market value is. At least that. Celtic will try and, finagle in some kind of clauses in the contract where they get more money further down the line, because he might end up going elsewhere after that. But I think, listen, Jota and Kieran Tierney were the benchmark for Celtic, and both of them have been sold, certainly in Kieran Tierney's case a few years ago. Yeah. So how come every other market can be inflated but not the Scottish one? You're not coming up here and taking more players for a song, and Celtic have proven that. These guys are proven footballers, so you get what they're worth, and I think he's worth more than 25 million. And I think that the highest ceiling that they could get is 30 million. I just don't think somebody would pay more than 30 million for a player playing in Scotland. That's my kind of attitude towards it. But I think Celtic have every right and could very well get that kind of cash for Managerial. I don't see them not getting that, or give or take, certainly well over 25 million.
And how do we look at the kind of money we're set to make from the Champions League? And it's obviously a lot of it's up in the air at the moment. A lot of it depends on how we actually perform. But with ticket sales included, you're looking at the guts of £50 million for the Champions League next year. If you sell O'Reilly on top of that, you're really hoping the club, spend a fair bit of money and really buy a few players. Because I honestly think we only maybe need 3 or 4 quality additions that can just be the difference. Because we were good in a lot of games last season, but for whatever reason we didn't get the results we deserved. So you just buy a few bits of quality.
We were good in the Champions League, and I think that's what impressed the manager greatly. He thought at times you could live with some of the best teams in Europe, and I think he realised, okay, he projected the future then, and he was kind of telling people, they weren't far off it. And I'm like you. I think if they can bring in 3 or 4 difference makers, ones that would turn the Atletico Madrid draw into a win, the Lazio loss into a win, players of that ilk, and I think that's what Rodgers saw as well that night, because some of the football they played in the Champions League, granted, it was sporadic and it was at intervals, but it was very good. And they proved, certainly at home, that they could go toe-to-toe with some of the best that European football has to offer. And I think Rodgers said, right, that's what I want, but I want it consistently. I don't want one half of a tie. I want it over a consistent period, over however many home games Celtic will have in this competition. Certainly there's 8 games for a start, isn't there? Could be 10.
Yeah.
So if you can, if your home record in those 4 or 5, that could help you get through. So I always hark back to Martin O'Neill's first season in the Champions League, and Celtic somehow found a way not to get through with 9 points, but won all 3 of their home games, and they were formidable at home. And it just emphasised the nature of taking something on your travels, if and when you can. That's difficult, but if the bedrock of any kind of European success can be your home games, then I think Rodgers saw the possibility that could happen with Celtic, with the investment from the hierarchy and the players that he wants, and that quality and the difference makers that can take you, as I say, to where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think as much as it was a dead rubber, I think beating Feyenoord on match day 6 was a really big result for the team. They've now won a game at that level. And, I'll take you back to that Atletico Madrid first half. We were brilliant in that first half. It was a really good performance against a kind of top-level European team. The issue in a lot of Champions League games was we didn't have the strength off the bench, and I think that's something Rodgers wants to change. Anyway, sorry, I realise we're chatting about the Champions League, and it is the Scottish Cup on Saturday. It's not a Champions League game. Just quickly, Monty saying, no, we need more than 3 or 4, Hamish. I feel 7 or 8. I kind of mean 3 or 4 quality additions. Obviously, every addition should be quality. But 3 or 4 players to come right into the first team, and maybe 2 or 3 others that can kind of strengthen the squad. There's a lot of chat happening. We've not even moved on to Daniel Kelly. There's been a report that he'll have more contract talks with Celtic this week, but there's interest from Bayer Leverkusen. He's said to have a number of suitors around Europe. Leverkusen want to know how much we want for Kelly. I'm guessing the answer would be he's not for sale. He's clearly very highly rated if one of the best teams in Europe right now are keen on him.
Yeah. And you see that as well, that it happened with players who've gone to Bayern Munich in the past from Celtic. It happened with Ben Doak. Daniel Kelly has now been offered new and improved terms, hasn't he? And obviously because Bayer Leverkusen are sniffing around, it just depends what Daniel Kelly wants to do, but the manager likes him a lot, and I would never advise a player what to do. It's purely between them, the football club, their agents and their family, but you seem to think that Daniel Kelly's got a lot more maturing to do, hasn't he? And might well be beneficial staying at Celtic because he could see a lot more game minutes under Brendan Rodgers, who rates him very, very highly. But Bayer Leverkusen, they're riding the crest of a wave, going for an invincible season in every competition, including the Europa League tonight, playing Atalanta. And I guess the youngster's got a real decision to make, hasn't he? And hopefully, and I'm sure he is, he'll be surrounded by the best people, because I know his family members and they'll be advising him right, and the manager will be keeping him right. But I'm like you, I would be loath to lose somebody like Kelly right now before we get a chance to see what he can really bring to the table. But we've seen it before with players leaving at a young age, and it would just be another one that's cherry picked by a top European club. And if that happens, then you just have to hold your hands up and accept it again. But it's just happening too often for me, Hamish. That's the point, Just you want to try and stop this from happening. But there's clearly Scotland are doing something right when the likes of Bayern Munich, Bayer Leverkusen, Liverpool are coming and taking the cream of your young talent. So something's working at that level.
I've kind of said my thoughts on Daniel Kelly. I'll be honest, I actually don't really know how good he is exactly, because we've not actually seen a great deal of him. I think next season you find out by loaning him out to another Premiership team, Dundee United, get him out on loan to Dundee United, Hibs, someone like that, get him playing more regularly in the Scottish Premiership, get him strengthening the opposition teams when they come up against you-know-who, and let's find out more about what he's about. I really hope Celtic are planning that for him, or at the very least they have a plan, because it seems like for a lot of players, and this may not be the case, but it does seem, looking at it a lot of the time, like it's just kind of like we don't really know what to do. Maybe there'll be a few injuries and you might get a couple of games in the first team, but you probably won't. I want us to have a plan for Daniel Kelly, and for me that would involve getting him out on loan to another Premiership team, not a team in the Championship. Get him out playing at a really good level next season.
That he's got a good relationship with Stephen Robinson at St Mirren. So somebody like that, or a Kilmarnock who did really well this season. I think he's fostering a good relationship with Derek McInnes down there. So it worked for Ayer, it worked for Ryan Christie going out on loan, and we all know these guys came back and made a massive contribution to Celtic's success in recent seasons. So I'm all for that. But play him in the Premiership, so he gets used to every ground and every piece of terrain that he's going to visit, in the hope that he comes back to Celtic a much more competitive midfielder and ready to fight for a place in the team. But he just can't be allowed to leave Celtic at this juncture in his career, because he could go to Germany and could possibly get lost in the system over there. So I would love him to stay, but I guess it's between the player, his family, his agents, and the club, and Brendan Rodgers to an extent could have a massive say in this, because he really rates the boy highly.
Would be another one I would get out on loan to another Premiership team,
Yeah.
whether he fancies that or not. Get him out on loan. I'm telling you, that guy will score goals. Just quickly, we had Dennis saying, will Greg Taylor sign a new deal after the Cup final? I believe he was asked after the game on Saturday about new contract. He said there's been nothing so far, but I think it's well known that Celtic are just putting all that off until the end of the season. Greg Taylor's going to get a new deal. I mean, even if he's not going to be first choice going forward, he's still going to be a really good guy to have around. I really like Greg Taylor. I think, people talk maybe about his ability sometimes. Maybe in Europe occasionally he's found out, but I think he's a really strong personality, a leader in that dressing room, and I think you want to keep people like that around.
Yeah, definitely. I don't see Greg Taylor not being offered a new deal. I mean, he's been a fantastic stalwart for Celtic, hasn't he? People pick flaws in his game, and that's their opinion, but you cannot say that Greg Taylor's been an excellent footballer for Celtic, an excellent player over the past couple of seasons. Every player has pros and cons, don't they? And we all know what they are in Greg Taylor's case, but he's been a magnificent footballer for Celtic the past couple of seasons, and he's earned a new deal. Let's put it that way.
100%. Scotland squad, is that out shortly? Tony, you'll know better than me.
It's coming out today, isn't it?
What are we expecting Celtic wise? McGregor will be there. Will Taylor be there? James Forrest probably be there.
James Forrest would be the one that we're hoping gets called up. Well, yeah, but people say that's recency bias, call it what you like, but I just think he's earned a call up because he's still shown that he's a cracking winger. Yeah, 11 a.m. Dennis Jameson saying, I knew it was out this morning, so I couldn't tell you exactly when, but yeah, Scotland's going at 11, yeah. Too busy preparing for this, Hamish, as Celtic, so it's all things are out there, but we'd like to see Ralston, somebody saying Ralston as well, possibly. So
yeah, 26 players.
Yeah, 26. So be a healthy Celtic contingent if Ralston, McGregor, Taylor, and Forrest were in it. That would be enough to give you some real interest in the Scotland games over the summer if you're that way inclined. I'm a big Scotland fan, so don't know about yourself, but I love following the fortunes of the Scotland national team as well. Some people don't, but that's, as I say, that's everyone's entitled to their own opinion and their own thoughts on these matters. But I just love to see Scotland finally get through to the knockout stages, and what a day it's going to be when they kick off the tournament against Germany, isn't it? It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going over to Germany in the summer. Long flight.
I know you are.
It's worth it to see my country at a Euros, because I couldn't really do the last one because it was COVID, and I think I've only been at one in my life, and I was 1 year old or something like that. So I think James Forrest should be in there though.
I would love to see Forrest there. I think that would be a wonderful reward for his achievements over the past couple of months. He's been solid. He's been consistent. He's just led by example. He's everything you want in an experienced footballer, isn't he? And again, go back to the manager who told everybody he's the best winger at the club. You do not say, Brendan. It's like, the proof's in the pudding, and the proof's been there, hasn't it? You just look at that instant impact he had in the semi-final against Aberdeen. His 2 goals against Dundee. He's just, he's riding the crest of a wave, and he deserves to be called up. He really does. If he doesn't, I don't think it'll be the end of the world for James, but certainly I'd love to see him get that, because he played the last Euros. That was his last cap. He played in the Euros under Steve Clarke, so I'd like to see it come full circle and play again.
Let's hope so. Just a big good luck. You mentioned it earlier. A big good luck to Jeremy Frimpong tonight in Dublin, of all cities, for Bayer Leverkusen in the Europa League final. It'd be great to see him flourishing again, and hopefully, personally, I hope Leverkusen win for Jeremy Frimpong.
It's just a wonderful story, isn't it? Can they do it? Can they complete the invincible season, including a season in Europe? It would be an immense achievement. I mean, absolutely brilliant. And I think just German football's riding the crest of a wave itself, isn't it, at the minute? With Dortmund in the Champions League final and Bayer Leverkusen going for the Europa League. So I think most neutrals will be on the side of Bayer Leverkusen, won't they, tonight? Unless you're an Atalanta fan, then that's fine. But good luck to both. But I think their bias is skewed a bit, isn't it, towards the team that have Jeremy Frimpong in them and the story behind it all. So speaking for myself, but you're obviously wanting Bayer Leverkusen to win as well. So that's fair enough. That's allowed. Hamish, it's allowed.
Yeah, Massimo Donati probably supporting Atalanta. I think he used to play for them. So it should be a good one. And obviously you mentioned Dortmund there in Glasgow on Sunday. Not the Borussia Dortmund, but the legends are playing against Celtic. So that's on Sunday. Right, Tony, I think that's us for today. We covered a lot of ground. Not much of it actually talking about Saturday's game, but we still have a couple of videos at least to go before then. There's plenty of time to talk about it.
Exactly. I just think, there's plenty of time to hype the cup final, isn't there? Thursday and Friday being those 2 days. But I actually thought that was quite refreshing not to talk about it. We know it's big. We know it's looming large. We know it's big and it's looming large over the horizon. But, you can get to the point where you just... it's overkill in terms of previewing it. So, it doesn't need previewed at all, really, does it? It doesn't need hyped. It is what it is. But I'm glad. I like that today because we can focus on the cup final, and it's the kind of middle of the week. So excellent. It's counting down now, isn't it? And we're all a bit excited about it all, but just try to keep a lid on it, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. Right. Just a final shout out for this. 6 months of access for the Celtic Way for just £1, and if that isn't enough, you'll be entered into a draw to potentially win lunch with Martin O'Neill. And remember, if you're a long-term subscriber, you are already entered into the draw. Tony, we had someone asking about that earlier. I believe that's the case. Yeah, they don't have to do anything.
Every subscriber's one lucky subscriber pulled randomly out of a hat's going to win lunch with Martin O'Neill. So whether you're an old subscriber, new subscriber, doesn't make any difference. It's you will automatically be entered in it.
Great stuff. Right, we're going to head off, everyone. Thanks for your input today. Back this time tomorrow. Speak to you